BDS movement, Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, is a global movement for recognizing Palestinian rights according to international law, to end the Israeli occupation, to allow the Palestinian right of return according to the UN resolution. And this is a movement that has been under attack, especially in Europe and North America, by pro-Israeli groups. But sadly, the German government and the German parliament have also enlisted themselves in the fight against Palestinian rights by trying to make BDS illegal. They cannot do that because it's a human rights-based movement, but they do try to call it, the BDS movement, anti-Semitic. And this is, of course, extremely offensive to Jews who think that comparing human rights activists with Nazis is really making light of the Holocaust and of actual anti-Semitism. So whether Jews support BDS or not, the comparison between BDS and Nazis is horrifying. But sadly, the German parliament, the Bundestag, did make that comparison in 2019 and also made a call, which is supposed to be non-binding, on organizations, cities, churches, universities, not to give any kind of rooms or money or support for organizations who support BDS. This created an environment of censorship and McCarthyism, because now there is a situation in which, for example, you want to invite artists to perform, like a singer, and to perform a song, and it has nothing to do with Israel or Palestine. But if it would later be revealed that this particular singer maybe supports BDS, then you would retroactively lose funding from the state for this. So now, whenever there is a concert in Germany, organizers feel the pressure to ask all of the artists, do you support BDS or not? And this kind of McCarthyist environment has caused a lot of protest. And there is a group of activists called the B3PT. They are affected by these censorship policies. This group includes a Palestinian, a Jew, a German, who bonded together to, that's why there are three of them, to launch a lawsuit against the Bundestag against this resolution. And tomorrow will be the trial. Already the Bundestag's legal division has answered the court and said, we don't think there should be a court case at all. We want this lawsuit to be stricken from the books because the resolution of the Bundestag has no legally binding significance, which means, I think, that they already decided they cannot defend it. They understand they have no arguments to defend it. So they want to go through a technical process and say it has no meaning. Well, if it really has no meaning, please erase it from the books and make it and announce that this resolution is offensive. This resolution makes light of anti-Semitism, and most of all, this is a resolution that offends Palestinian rights. The BDS movement was launched in 2005 by 170 Palestinian civil society organizations, which made a call on the international community to respect international law and, in the name of international law and human rights, to boycott, sanction, and divest from the Israeli economy. They created very clear guidelines to make sure that the BDS movement will not in itself harm or isolate individuals. So that is not an attempt to attack people just because they happen to be Jews or happen to be Israelis. It is a movement that targets institutions, Israeli institutions that are complicit with the occupation and with the apartheid policies of the Israeli government, and tries to make these policies public. This is the main issue, is to raise awareness, because the BDS movement does not have the means nor the intentions of destroying the Israeli economy. It is a movement to create protest. And as such, it was extremely effective. Mostly, the BDS movement has spread and received a lot of support in West Europe, in Northern Europe, in North America, also in India and in South Africa, where a lot of labor unions and churches and student groups have supported the movement, and they understand this is a movement that is based on principles of equality and democracy. I recommend that everyone who wants to know more about the movement go to the website, the bdsmovement.net, and read the call. It's written in many different languages, and it's very clear what are the aims of this movement. Now, this attempt to fight against BDS is actually led by the Israeli government. The Israeli government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also the now defunct Ministry of Strategic Affairs that was built in order to fight against BDS, went to a lot of to a lot of European governments, to the US government, and said, we want you to legislate laws against BDS in your own countries. And of course, democratic countries cannot do that. Even Germany, which wanted to say, yes, we'll do everything that the Israeli government tells us, but no, we cannot actually ban freedom of speech in Germany, even if the Israeli government really wants us to do that. So the only thing they can do is make this kind of call to say, we don't like BDS, we accuse BDS of anti-Semitism and all that nonsense. But it's not banning BDS, of course. BDS is legal. This was ratified by the president of the EU. This was ratified by different courts throughout the EU, but last year there was also a very famous court case over a group of activists in France that were fined according to French law. There is a French law against discrimination and racism, and they applied it not against the people who perpetrate racism and discrimination, but against the victims of racism and discrimination. And these victims who were calling for BDS, activists demanding equality, they were punished by the French authorities and had to pay a fine. They appealed to the European Court of Human Rights, and they won the case. So with the precedent of the European Court for Human Rights now saying BDS is legal and BDS is not anti-Semitic, now it becomes very difficult for a German court to say, oh, well, we don't accept the ruling of a court which is above us in the hierarchy of courts.